Hi everybody, and welcome to Spanish with Elena, the best YouTube channel to learn and speak Spanish. Hola a todos, bienvenidos a Spanish with Elena, el mejor canal de YouTube para aprender a hablar español. Wow, how many things you're gonna learn in this video, right? But don't freak out, it's not gonna be that hard, I promise. Let's see. We're gonna learn los días de la semana, the days of the week, los meses del año, the months of the year, y las estaciones, and the seasons. And how are we gonna do this? Very easy, you'll see. I've made up some sentences where you can see how to use all this new vocabulary. I would also like you to repeat after me at least 2 or 3 times every sentence so you can practice and improve your Spanish pronunciation and your accent. By the way, in some of the sentences, I will also share with you some extra relevant information regarding grammar. Okay? So, ¿estamos preparados para aprender un poquito más de español? ¿Sí? 3, 2, 1, comenzamos. Okay, here you have all the new vocabulary we're going to work with in this video. The first thing, the months of the year. Enero, febrero, marzo, abril, mayo, junio, julio, agosto, septiembre, octubre, noviembre, diciembre. Now the days of the week. Lunes, martes, miércoles, jueves, viernes, sábado, domingo. Important things about these 2 groups we've seen so far. The months of the year and days of the week. All of them are masculine, masculino in Spanish. Remember that the gender is very important, muy importante, masculino. Los meses del año y los días de la semana. About the days of the week and the plural, let's pay attention to this. Except for sábado y domingo, all the days of the week end with an S. So you don't have to change anything, just the definite article. If you say el lunes, that's singular. Los lunes, that would be plural. About sábado y domingo, you would have to say los sábados, you have to add an extra S at the end of the word, o los domingos. Once again, an extra S at the end of the word. And finally, the seasons. La primavera, el verano, el otoño, el invierno. As you can see, primavera is the only season that is feminine. Verano, otoño, and invierno are masculine. And regarding the plural, it's all about adding an extra S at the end of the word. And if necessary, you would have to use the definite relative plural as well. So it would be las primaveras, los veranos, los otoños, and los inviernos. Okay, now that you've learned all these new words, what about putting them into practice? Are you with me? Yes? Let's do it. Primera frase. Enero es el primer mes del año. So far, so good. But there's something here because I've underlined a word, primer. Why did I do this? Okay, because when you have the word primero, first in English, and you have a noun afterwards, you don't say primero, but primer. You don't say enero es el primero mes del año. And this also happens with the word tercero, third. You wouldn't say marzo es el tercero mes del año, but marzo es el tercer mes del año. So, what you're supposed to learn, when you have the word primero and then a noun in Spanish, you say primer, only with the masculine. And when you have the word tercero plus a noun, you say tercer. Once again, only with the masculine. But for instance, if primero is feminine, you don't do this. In the sentence, this is the first time I visit France, you would say, esta es la primera vez que visito Francia, because vez is feminine, time, okay? So, primera vez, not primer vez. Only with masculine, primer and tercer, okay? This may not seem to be a big deal, but it's important that you learn to speak Spanish correctly, right? And all these little details are always very important. Segunda frase. San Valentín se celebra en febrero. In Spanish, we don't say Valentine's Day, but San Valentín. And it's also celebrated on February the 14th. Tercera frase. La primavera empieza a finales de marzo. Here you have two new words, primavera and marzo. Notice that in English you say spring, but in Spanish you have to say la primavera, as if you would say the spring in English. I know it sounds awful in English, but that's the way we say in Spanish. So don't forget to say la primavera, because primavera solo doesn't work. Cuarta frase. El pintor español Francisco de Goya murió a mediados de abril del siglo XIX. What's interesting about this sentence is the fact that in Spanish we use Roman numbers to talk about centuries, and also that we use the cardinal numbers instead of the ordinal numbers like you do in English. Quinta frase. El Día de los Caídos se celebra en Estados Unidos cada año el último lunes de mayo. We call in Spanish Memorial Day el Día de los Caídos. And one last thing, you say on the last Monday, and we say el último lunes, no en el último lunes. We don't use on, okay? Pay attention to that. Sexta frase. This is a good one because we have 3 new words in just one sentence. El verano comienza en junio y termina en septiembre. Remember what I told you about la primavera? It happens again. El verano. In English, you say summer, but in Spanish, you have to say el verano, la primavera. Don't forget that. Séptima frase. ¿Cuándo y dónde se celebran los Sanfermines? En julio, en Pamplona. Octava frase. En Andalucía, en agosto, siempre hace muchísimo calor. Okay, this sentence might be a bit confusing if you cannot understand the translation of it is always too hot. We say it is hot, hace calor. So August is always too hot has to be translated as en agosto siempre hace muchísimo calor. If it is too confusing, just learn it like that. En agosto siempre hace muchísimo calor. Remember that a word-by-word translation doesn't always work. And especially regarding Spanish, you will find many examples where you cannot use a word-by-word translation. So what can you do? What should you do? My advice, just learn things the way we say it. Don't overthink it, okay? Novena frase. Conocí a mi marido en septiembre. I think the only relevant thing about this sentence is the verb to meet someone for the first time. In Spanish, it is translated as conocer. But the important thing, the tricky thing, is that we have to put a preposition in between. You say, I met my husband, but in Spanish we say, conocí a mi marido. We put a preposition between conocí and mi marido, and the preposition is a. So, I met my husband is translated as conocí a mi marido. Décima frase. El otoño es mi estación favorita. As you can see, once again, before the season we have to use el o la primavera, el verano, el otoño. In English, you say fall, but in Spanish, you have to say el otoño. By the way, ¿cuál es tu estación favorita? If you want to share, comment below. Mine is la primavera. Mi estación favorita es la primavera. I love it. Me encanta. Décima frase. Halloween tiene lugar el último día de octubre. About this sentence, nothing relevant to say. Halloween tiene lugar el último día de octubre. About Halloween, I would like to say that when I was a kid, and that wasn't a long time ago, okay, because I am not that old, we didn't celebrate Halloween in Spain. So the fact that nowadays we do celebrate Halloween is like a new tradition for us. It's great for children, trick or treat, truco trato. But for me, maybe because I didn't celebrate it when I was a child, it's more, I don't know, for me it's like something from the movies or something like that. But yeah, it's a tradition that nowadays we do celebrate in Spain as well. And most people seem to love it. It doesn't matter how old they are, they love Halloween. So I guess this is going to be a new tradition that's going to last for a long time, okay? Halloween ain't going anywhere. Noviembre tiene 30 días. Noviembre tiene 30 días. What else can I say about this sentence? Not much, right? Vamos con otra frase. En diciembre voy a pasar las Navidades con mis abuelos en Cantabria. Cantabria is a very beautiful place in Spain. If you have the opportunity to visit it, do it. You won't regret it. About this sentence, I think there are only two things that I would like you to pay attention to. The first thing, I am spending. The present continuous. It's true that in English, when you have made plans for the future, you can use the present continuous. But in Spanish, you cannot do that. Ever. Don't ever do that. It makes no sense. So instead, you could use the future, will, or going to. I'm going to spend Christmas. It would be voy a pasar las Navidades. And the second thing, Christmas. It's plural in this sentence. And never forget to put las before Navidades. So, I'm spending Christmas, voy a pasar las Navidades. Otra frase. En Galicia, en invierno, llueve muchísimo. This is a very easy sentence, nothing to say, just practice. Try to repeat it a few times so you can get familiar with the vocabulary and so you can improve your pronunciation and your accent. 6 frases más para terminar. Antes de ir a trabajar, los martes voy a clase de yoga. There are a couple of things I would like you to pay attention to. For instance, before going to work, before and plus you have an ing verb. In Spanish, you would say antes de. Before means antes de. And then instead of an ing verb, you would have an infinitive. Antes de ir a trabajar. And regarding on Tuesdays, los martes, notice that in English you use the preposition on that we don't in Spanish, but we use the definite article instead. And pay attention to this. Tuesdays in English, plural, so plural in Spanish. And remember that the days of the week are masculine, so definite article, los, masculine and plural. And about the word martes, you make no changes because the singular and the plural is the same. Something else, the translation of yoga class, clase de yoga, something like class of yoga. This is like the car keys, las llaves del coche. That's how we say it in Spanish. Otra frase. El miércoles me tomé un café con Claudia y su marido. Only 2 things are important here in this sentence. The first one, we've already mentioned it. On Wednesday, we don't use the preposition on in Spanish, but the definite relative instead. Miércoles, singular, masculine, el miércoles. I'm afraid if I keep insisting on this, you're gonna hate me, so that's why I tried to explain it so quickly. Now, let's get serious here, because what I'm about to explain to you might be kind of hard to understand, especially if this is the first time that you hear about reflexive verbs in Spanish. I promise I will try to make it as easy as possible. So be patient and try to understand what I'm about to explain to you. To have a coffee, it means tomarse un café. When you have a verb in Spanish that ends with se, se, we call those verbs reflexive verbs. And those verbs always need a reflexive pronoun. So you have to ask yourself, who's the subject? In this case, yo. Yo me tomé un café. So you have to use me, the reflexive pronoun. You can omit the subject because you know that the ending of the verb tells us who's doing the action, but you cannot omit the reflexive pronoun. So in this case, I've not mentioned yo, but I do have to say me. So, el miércoles me tomé un café con Claudia y su marido. Any doubts about this tomarse, me tomé? If so, you are more than welcome to comment below. I will try to explain to you anything that you don't understand, okay? 4 frases para terminar. Vamos allá. Este jueves tengo cita con el dentista. I've used the present continuous because you can do that in English when you are talking about something that you've planned for the future. We've already talked about this in this video. But in Spanish, remember that you cannot do that. So instead, I use the simple present. No big deal. The only thing, you say in English, I'm having an appointment, and in Spanish, you say, tengo cita. You cannot say, tengo una cita. This is like, I am a doctor. In Spanish, you don't say, soy un doctor o soy un médico, but soy doctor o soy médico. Por fin es viernes. One more time. Por fin es viernes. Finally, a word-by-word translation. Nothing else to say. Penúltima frase. Ya estamos acabando. Un último esfuerzo. Come on, you can do it. Los sábados no me gusta madrugar. What do you think? Should I explain to you once again how we translate on Saturdays into Spanish? Because I think if I explain it one more time, you will definitely unsubscribe. So I think I'm not gonna do it this time. You already know how it works, right? You already know the deal. Please say yes. The only thing I would like to mention is that in English you say, I don't like waking up. I mean, after the verb like, you use an ing verb, and in Spanish we don't do that. After the verb gustar, we use an infinitive. No me gusta madrugar. And by the way, obviously, to wake up early means madrugar. Almost there. Última frase. El domingo es el séptimo y último día de la semana. The only thing I would like to remark about this sentence is the fact that in English you say Sunday, but in Spanish you have to say el domingo. Remember the definite article, domingo, masculino and singular, singular. So, el domingo. Surprise! Sorpresa, sorpresa! Okay, before you get mad at me, please don't. I just thought that after everything you've learned so far, it could be kind of useful, útil for you to put all this into practice. And what's the best way to do that? By making a few exercises. In this case, just 2 exercises, okay? The first one, translate into Spanish. That's what you're supposed to do in this exercise, to translate into Spanish all these time expressions. Most of them, we've already seen them in this video, and there are a few that are new, but I trust you. I think you can do it. I think you can translate them. So I'm gonna give you a few minutes, and then I'm gonna give you the right translation, okay? Okay, so please do it. And now I'm going to give you the translation of all these time expressions. So, the first one, los domingos. I made so much emphasis on this in this video that I'm not going to say anything else, I promise. So, the second one, este lunes. There's something important about this one. You have the word este underlined, and there's a reason why. The word this in English means este, esta, or esto in Spanish. Este and esto are masculine, and esta feminine. So if I have 2 different ways of using the masculine in Spanish, how do I know when to use each of them? It's very easy. When you have a noun after this, you use este. When you don't have a noun, you use esto. I'm going to give you 2 examples. This is very easy. Esto es muy fácil. After the word this, you don't have a noun, you have a verb. So you use esto. But what about this Monday is going to rain? Este lunes va a llover. After the word este, I mean this in English, you have a noun, so you have to use este. Vamos con otra. En invierno. La cuarta. El jueves por la tarde. Y ahora la quinta. Vamos a ver qué pasa aquí. We have 2 options. El próximo mes de marzo, el próximo marzo. Even though in Spanish they both mean the same, in real life, at least in Spain, we would probably use the first one, el próximo mes de marzo. So next July would be el próximo mes de julio. Next September would be el próximo mes de septiembre. You can practice with every month of the year. El próximo marzo is not wrong, but I insist, in Spain, at least, we don't use it. Vamos con la sexta. Todos los miércoles, cada miércoles. It means exactly the same every Wednesday. You're talking about an action that is repeated every Wednesday. So the meaning is the same. You can either say todos los miércoles o cada miércoles. Another one. En julio. Penúltima. El martes. Y ahora, la última. Probably the most confusing and the most difficult one. Let's see. Two things. The first thing, the word that. The word that has two different translations in Spanish. It can either mean ese, esa, or eso, or it can mean aquel, aquella, or aquello. So, how could I know when to use each of them? Well, if we're talking about the position of an object, it depends on how far it is. If it is close, we would use this, that is, este, esta, or esto. If it is a bit far, we would use ese, esa, or eso, that. And if it is very far away, we would use that as well in English, but in Spanish we would say aquel, aquella, or aquello. In this case, we're not talking about the position of anything, but a memory. When you want to use a sum of nostalgic tone, that means that you're talking about a memory that is very far away, you would use aquel, aquella, or aquello. That's why I chose aquel viernes por la noche o aquella noche de viernes. The meaning of both sentences is exactly the same, and there's no reason to choose one or the other. It's up to you. Pick the one you feel more comfortable with, or just learn them both. Okay? I gave you these two options because I want to give you as many options as possible so you can understand everything. Okay? But it's up to you to pick the vocabulary you want to use when you express yourself in Spanish. So you can learn them both or just one of them. But they both mean the same, so it's not a big deal. Segundo y último ejercicio. What's wrong with these sentences? This is going to be fun, you'll see. You're going to become some sort of detective here. You have to find what's wrong in each of these sentences because there's something that's not right in each sentence and you have to find that mistake. I'm going to give you a few minutes and then I will share with you all the mistakes, okay? Okay, so just do it. Encuentra los errores. I trust you. I'm sure you're going to find them all. Was it too hard? No, it wasn't that hard. Okay, let's see. Primera frase. Los sábados no me gusta madrugar. What was the mistake? Los. It was missing. The next one. Antes de desayunar, siempre me doy una ducha. In this case, the mistake was that we didn't use the preposition de after antes. Antes de desayunar. Before having breakfast. Tercera frase. Conocí a mi marido en verano. The mistake, or in this case, the missing word was a, the preposition a. Remember, conocí a mi marido. I met my husband. Cuarta frase. La primavera termina en junio. La was missing. Siguiente frase. Mañana tenemos cita con el veterinario. Here, we didn't have to use una. Remember that? Mañana tenemos cita. That's right. Mañana tenemos una cita. That's not right. Siguiente frase. El miércoles es el tercer día de la semana, no el tercero día de la semana. You remember that? I explained it to you. Next one. Por fin es viernes. No, por fin es el viernes. El is not right. Penúltima frase. Diciembre es el último mes del año. You don't have to say el diciembre, ¿ok? El diciembre es el último mes del año is wrong. Diciembre es el último mes del año. And the last sentence, la última frase. Ayer me tomé un café con Verónica. Me tomé. Remember that tomarse is a reflexive verb and it always needs a reflexive pronoun. So, ayer me tomé un café con Verónica. Wow, this is definitely the longest video I've ever made. I'm exhausted. I can imagine the way you are. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've learned a lot. If you enjoyed this video, please like and remember to subscribe. Your support means the world to me and it helps me to keep making more videos. You motivate me to make more and more videos. Hasta pronto. Adiós.